If you thought the big Summer Game Fest reveal streak had already ended, not quite yet. Here's another week of fantastic releases that you have to see. Most games set in feudal Japan put you in the role of a samurai. In Expedition Samurai, however, you play as a Dutch guy, immersive. You arrive as the captain of a battered European ship and quickly find yourself caught in the power struggles of the country. Like previous Expeditions games, the focus lies on player choice, companion relationships, and tactical combat. This time, however, the developers are expanding those systems considerably. You'll travel with a crew of 8 companions, each with their own goals, personal quests, and opinions about your decisions. So, keeping everyone happy might be just as hard as winning the Civil War. But hey, at least every one of them is romanceable, so there might be ways, just saying. Combat, on the other hand, combines turn-based tactics with stealth, gadgets, and environmental interactions. You will be often outnumbered, so a clever ambush can be more useful than charging in sword first. Which reminded us of all the time we spent preparing for battles in Baldur's Gate 3, only for everything to fall apart because we were one tile short of movement. And talking of BG3, for the first time in the series, the entire campaign can be played in online co-op for 2 players. You can plan attacks together, argue over important story decisions, or even compete for the attention of the same companion. What could possibly go wrong? The game enters early access on PC via Steam in summer 2026, with a full release currently planned for Q1 2027. My Time at Evershine, the third part of the life simulation series, has finally revealed more gameplay. And you will be surprised. Not only because Part 3 clearly got an enormous graphical upgrade compared to the earlier 2 games. It lost the cartoony look and now reminds us of a mix between Palia and Palworld. But the gameplay also evolved a bit. Evershine is still a life sim, but now with more adventure RPG elements. You'll recruit settlers, assign them jobs, explore the wilds, and of course, this is still a My Time game, so there will be plenty of crafting, farming, and, you guessed it, romantic relationships. So far, there are 10 charming core NPCs, 5 male and 5 female. And it seems important to mention that each of them already has a pajama design revealed. One of the biggest additions, though, is full story co-op. The first, My Time at Portia, was strictly single player, and the second, Sandrock, has co-op, but it's more like a separate sandbox building mode, separating gameplay from the story. In Evershine, however, up to 4 players can experience the entire narrative together. In online co-op, you can build the town, explore dungeons, fight bandits, and contribute to the settlement's growth. The question is, can you also each date the same NPC? Or is this a gifting race against time? And if you prefer solo, you can even bring up to 3 NPC companions along on adventures. Evershine is currently being kickstarted and scheduled for release in 2027 on PC and all consoles. We all knew it, strange women lying in ponds, distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. Now, to no surprise, King Arthur's kingdom isn't doing particularly well these days. The Knights of the Round Table have fallen, corruption has spread across the land, and what's left of Avalon is slowly crumbling away. This charming setup is the groundwork for Wardens of Avalon. It blends top-down action RPG combat with something you don't often see in the genre, rebuilding the world you are fighting for. As one of the Twilight Knights, you venture out in search of resources, loot, and answers. Combat is fully classless, allowing you to combine different weapons, armor sets, and abilities to create your own fighting style. The real twist that I mentioned before comes back at home. Resources gathered during your adventures are used to rebuild your stronghold, attracting craftsmen, unlocking new upgrades, and opening additional progression paths. And since restoring a kingdom sounds like a lot of work, the entire campaign supports up to 4-player co-op, letting friends explore, fight, and rebuild together. Teamwork makes the dream work. Wardens of Avalon is scheduled to launch for PC via Steam in 2027 with a playtest planned for June 2026. As fans of Cast and Chill, a game as zen as it can get, We were over the moon when we saw that the devs are working on Wild and Chill, a cozy-ish co-op survival game where you build an off-grid cabin in the woods. If your idea of surviving in the wilderness involves less sitting by a campfire with a fishing rod and exploring the region with your quad bike and your doggy, well, only I wishlisted this one faster than you. You can hunt, fish, forage for mushrooms, set traps, gather resources, and slowly turn a simple shelter into a full homestead complete with smokehouses, storage buildings, and hunting hides. The world spans 11 different regions so far, with coastal areas, rainforests, and marshlands, including seasons that bring snowfall, for example. All of those are filled with wildlife to discover, which you track in your journal. When encountering wildlife, fighting is not always the best option. If you've ever seen a bear in real life, that makes even more sense. If you want to live a vegetarian life, you can apparently also just watch the animals and live off of gathering, which is awesome if you're like me, who will cry over having to shoot digital rabbits. Although Black Bear Hollow is very remote, as I said before, you have your loyal doggy, but there will also be a couch co-op option for 2 and online co-op for up to 4 players. Awesome! Wild and Chill is coming to PC and Switch, although a release date has not been announced yet, which is sad, but let them cook, I guess. Preferably by the campfire, of course. Another, yet vastly different cozy game that we have been watching for a long time is Loftia. We kinda never got around talking about it though. But now that they have announced their early access release in fall this year, we finally had a good reason. Loftia is a cozy life sim set on islands floating in the sky. It mixes farming, crafting, fishing, and home building. Some elements can be automated thanks to solar energy and hydro farms, for example. What's different from other late cozy games is the shared multiplayer online world where players work together to expand and shape their surroundings. Yep, you heard that right, it kinda is a mini MMO with persistent worlds. Every player has their own little floating island, but there are also shared spaces. Together, they form a neighborhood. You can invite others into your home or hang out in public areas. There will be community projects and goals that everyone can work on to unlock new locations and rewards for everyone. For that, you will explore abandoned facilities, solve puzzles and quests together with other Loftians, or by yourself if you prefer. Of course, there are also plenty of ways to personalize your island, your character, and even a growing collection of animal companions, including capybaras. As I said before, Loftia is planned to enter early access this year for PC, with a Switch version planned for later. Growing basic corn is so 2025. Everbloom lets you put butter on it first and grow popcorn instead. That should tell you pretty much everything you need to know about its approach to agriculture. Set in the colorful town of Brambleton, you inherit a neglected farm and set out to rediscover forgotten crops, flavors, and farming techniques. But this isn't just about planting seeds and waiting. Crops and animals react to what you do with them. Feed cows chocolate, and they might produce chocolate milk. Experiment with different conditions, and you can discover entirely new plant variants. Setting peppers on fire, well, that's gonna be an extra spicy crop. Apparently, normal farming was considered too predictable, and we just love the creativity behind it. Outside the fields, you will spend time exploring forests and caves, fishing, mining, decorating your homestead, and getting to know the town's residents. Many have their own stories, and some can even be more than just friends. The game also supports co-op for groups of up to 4 players, allowing friends to farm, build, and work on projects together. We just hope Greg keeps his creativity in check. Everbloom is scheduled to launch in spring 2027 for PC and Nintendo Switch 2. One of the most creative co-op monster collectors of the last few years is getting a sequel, and it looks so cool. Cassette Beasts 2002 plays out in that exact year and takes players from an ordinary London neighborhood into a strange parallel world filled with creatures, including a walking Tamagotchi and a piñata. Just like in the first game, these can all be collected, or rather recorded using the cassette recorder. Playing the tape back then allows players to take on their form in battles. On top, the fusion mechanics return that merges 2 beasts, but with now more than 250 beasts Beasts available, we have more than 57,000 unique fusion forms. There will be a new roster of unique companions who join you on your adventure too. Each one offers different gameplay perks and a background story. And if that's something you enjoy, there will also be a romance system coming up. And unlike the first game at launch, co-op is available from the start, although it looks like they have dropped the local co-op mode. We played the first one for a bit, yet dropped it after a while as you couldn't play through the story together from the start, and player 2 cannot have their own custom character. But we hope that this sequel will fix our personal grievances with co-op, as the battle system was truly awesome. In online co-op, up to 8 players will be able to play together, seemingly through the whole story, as well as trade creatures, explore and battle side by side. Cassette Beasts 2002 is coming to PC and consoles, but a release date has not been announced yet. After years of crusades, increasingly questionable tax policies, and definitive editions, Stronghold finally gets a new entry to the series. Stronghold 4 takes you back to medieval England, where you play as a shepherd who somehow quickly ends up leading armies and defending castles. You know, the usual career path. At its core, this is classic Stronghold. You build farms and workshops while keeping your peasants fed and happy. Don't tax them too hard, or they might decide your reign should end immediately. On the military side, sieges are getting larger than ever before, with moats, tunnelers, new defensive structures, and bigger battlefields. The weather now plays a role too. Gotta fill those trenches somehow. Rain can affect archers, snow impacts food production, giving you perfectly planned economy another layer of uncertainty. Early access launches with a 22-mission campaign, skirmish mode, and 8 AI lords to challenge. Unfortunately, co-op and multiplayer in general are planned for the full release later on, and not part of the early access package. But if you want to know whether the game is generally for you, nothing easier than trying out a demo that arrives on June 23rd, with early access launching later in 2026 on PC via Steam. If you prefer your Souls-like appetizer with a dash of 5 spice, Wo Long has you covered. With its dark fantasy version of ancient China, where legendary beasts, warlords, and monsters all share the same battlefield, there was no shortage of opportunity to get a reality check on your skills. But if you couldn't get enough of the first one, Team Ninja has good news for you: a sequel. Wo Long 2 builds on the combat that made the original stand out, with deflections, counters, and skillful swordplay that are still crucial in every fight. It's still pretty early and information is scarce, but from what we've seen so far, not only the battlefields, but also the bosses have quite grown in size. Good for them, and back to training for us, I guess. Multiplayer details haven't been revealed yet, but the original supported up to 3-player co-op that included the story missions. Also, there were optional PvP invasions that could be toggled on and off, so we might see something along those lines again. Wo Long 2 Wings of Ember launches in early 2027 for PC and consoles. Sea of Thieves' new Season 20, called Custom Seas, is launching for free on June 18th. Players can create their own private servers with their own events and rules. So anything is possible, from rowboat battles to sniper battle royales. You can even use your server to create cinematic scenes for videos and screenshots, and host private servers just for your alliance or crew. There's no progression or special season rewards otherwise, but the added creative freedom probably is rewarding enough already. With Entropic Break, the game's first paid story expansion, Abiotic Factor is seemingly sending players to beach holidays. This fall, we will leave the underground labs behind to explore tropical islands, open seas, underwater areas, and a new facility. The DLC adds strange new enemies, paranormal threats, and new traversal tools, including boats and underwater exploration. So it keeps the game's signature mix of survival crafting, science, and chaotic humor. Just don't forget your sunscreen! Where Winds Meet's newest update, version 1.7 Imperial Palace, brings a new story chapter, new campaign, as well as a new map and various fun new events and activities, including one that is called Meow Meow Challenge. And speaking of Meow Meow, they're also bringing the most adorable world boss we have ever seen, the Cat Emperor, who drops his little helmet as a reward. So don't forget to pack your cucumbers, guys. After 5 years, Valheim finally leaves early access on September 9th with its 1.0 release and the long-awaited Deep North biome. The last frozen region adds not only a ton of snow, but new monsters and dungeons as well, a moose mound, and plenty of new resources. Players will also get new gear, drawbridges, a grappling hook, and full crossplay across PC and consoles. After years of updates, this marks the game's final major biome and the perfect time to return to your Viking settlement. The upcoming days will be really difficult for you because there really are a lot of games you can play for free over the weekend and even some to keep forever. Over on the Epic Game Store, we got 2 games this week. Regular viewers of our channel might remember Warhammer 40k Speed Freaks, the combat racing game in the Warhammer 40k universe where you race together. It released just recently and is currently free to keep if you claim it until June 18. Also on the Epic Game Store, something completely different, the Ouroboros King, a clever chess roguelike hybrid where you build and command an army of unique chess pieces. If you're a fan of the classic, that one might be for you. On Steam you can play Goblin Cleanup, a messy co-op cleaning simulator where you play as goblins tidying up dungeons before the next adventurers arrive. If you're more into FPS, we got Rogue Point, a tactical 4-player co-op FPS from the creators of Black Mesa. And for all the retro lovers among you, Neon Abyss 2, the sequel to the popular roguelike shooter, is also free to play until June 17th. And finally, for the strategy lovers, we have Hearts of Iron 4, Paradox's acclaimed grand strategy set in World War II. But that's all for this week. We wish you a ton of sun and fun in co-op with your favorite people, and we'll see you again in the next one.